Welcome to the Accounting Technology Lab, brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor, with your hosts, Randy Johnston and Brian Tankersley.
Welcome to the Accounting Technology Lab. I'm pleased to have you as a guest today with my co-host, Brian Tankersley. We are coming to you from fabulous Brentwood, I guess we would say.
That's right. And you have to include the name fabulous in the name of the city because it is that fabulous.
It seems to be
Brentwood, Tennessee, just south of Nashville.
Well, we've been teaching a technology conference here at the Tennessee Society today, but Brian and I were together last week at the Thomson Reuters SYNERGY Conference in Orlando. Now, this event happened November 5 through 8, and both Brian and I were there. I want to start off with a real simple thing, though, on this one, GoFileRoom. Now, you and I talked to Louis Calvin on that, and he's the product manager on GoFileRoom. But there is some big things happening with GoFileRoom, new user interface, new FirmFlow pieces, new APIs for both GoFileRoom and for FirmFlow. And so
he does all of this and ice fishes.
Yes, he does.
I mean, amazing.
Yeah. Well, he's a good guy and is doing a good job managing
the
platform, which I think is also important along the way. So there was also some pretty significant announcements along the way around the CoCounsel platform. Now, Thomson Reuters has used CoCounsel branding for their AI for about a year, particularly with the Thomson Reuters Checkpoint Edge CoCounsel, their tax research product.
Now, the CoCounsel product was actually originally developed for the legal division, which is about twice the size of tax and accounting. But so they've got that in use with a lot of different kinds of regulations and laws and everything. So it's been around a long time, even though the tax version of it hasn't been around as long.
So it turns out the Materia acquisition was a big deal, and Kevin, who helped create that, we recorded in a podcast while we were in Orlando. So you can hear more about what Kevin might say about the Materia acquisition and the whole AI platform. But Kevin disclosed to me that there were about 100 developers in the AI division under his command right now, which is pretty impressive.
But that's a lot of real intelligence for artificial intelligence.
It really is. But, you know, the thing that I guess I'd like to point out is we still think the leadership here is really doing a good job across all fronts. Now, I think you first brought this to my attention a year ago, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really have turned the boat. You know, it used to be that everything was on premises, everything was created in Dexter, Michigan, and acquisitions went there to die. And that was a culture, okay? And they had great products that worked together, and that's great. But the time passed on those products, and they have now taken an API-led product, and they've led with a bunch of tax things. Now, not everything has APIs, and there are certain products that are not going to make the trip. You know, the File Cabinet CS product is set for end of life at the end of 27. So folks have, we're recording this in November of 25, so you have basically 25 months until end of support for that product from when we're recording this, probably less from when you actually see this. But that's been announced, and they're going forward with it. But they really have changed culture significantly. And, one of the people I think that's helped there a lot is not just Elizabeth, the president, who's really is the chow boss, but I will say that they have managed to hang on to Dave Weil for 5 years. And one of the most brilliant personnel moves they did was Dave, who had been his own boss for 10 or 15 years, they put Dave in charge of audit so that Dave had blue ocean to work on instead of having to fight with a bunch of people in legal about what the right answer is.
Mm-hmm. So Elizabeth Beastrom here kind of led off on their opening keynote. And, there were many different things that happened across the keynote, but they did close up with a panel, which was basically talking about the future and so forth. But Steve, as you can see picture here.
Steve Hasker, the CEO of the whole organization.
Was really fun to talk to. We had breakfast with him on Friday morning. But, the overview of where they're headed was pretty important. Now, there were several different products that were released. And if I had to give one overall view of what happened at the conference, last year was the announcement. This year it was the release. So during the summer, we saw Ready to Review released. Sorry, Ready to Advise released.
Yep.
And here at the conference, Ready to Review was released along with Audit Intelligence Analyze, which was released. And, the efficiencies that are being picked up in these different platforms, the audit platforms, users are reporting high percentage increase. At the conference, they announced CoCounsel Document Analysis, which again was another new release based on the Materia platform. And the users on, these products again are seeing pretty significant productivity improvements. So, in the big picture though, I want to step back, Brian, we'll let you go here.
Yeah.
But, fundamentally it was opening keynote, lots of breakout sessions. There were 271 breakout sessions this year. Mm-hmm. There were 1,600 plus attendees. Mm-hmm. They had attendees from all 50 states for the first time ever on their event. They had much of the upper management team there. They had their traditional roundtables on Thursday night and their, closing party on Friday night. So, all good things that were happening across the event. But it was really starting at 7 a.m. in the morning until 9:30 at night, just one thing after another for the event. I also got to sit in on an AI audit session talking about guided assurance and their standalone piece there. And they had also announced that they were going to supply guided assurance to the field guide product, which had been worked on for 6 months as a deal.
Yeah, and I actually ran into some of the field guide folks. I didn't have an opportunity to catch up with Jen, but there were a lot of folks there from across the accounting tech spectrum. I think let's see, the folks from the scheduling product were there. You had your NMGI guys were there. Jeff Kopechnik from Jeff Pro staff, and the Ignition people were there. There were just a ton of people there. One thing that I will say is that where they have really shifted strategy is they now have decided that the world is integrated and the world has APIs so that you can integrate into them. Now, APIs, again, I don't mean to get too nerdy on you here. APIs are application program interfaces, okay? And they're kind of like, like fire hydrants that you can hook data hoses into to get data in and out of the product. And so the thing that's good about that is it facilitates better integration between the products, doing things in your process as opposed to the only process that works if you want to integrate it, which is how we had to do things 20 years ago. So they really have moved forward. And so in their world, the future is integrated, the future has AI embedded in it. And so they are, it's a different world than it was 15 years ago.
Well, and the other thing that I sat in, Brian, was the UltraTax session. You didn't get to see that, but the UltraTax session was showing the Ready to Review, their new AI product, which is going to control the entire process end to end, the new integrations for SafeSend, including the AI gather and the deliver part, and SurePrep. But they also demonstrated UltraTax 2025 in this session. So it was really intended to be an end-to-end, here's where we're going with this whole workflow piece. And I think a year from now, that'll be amazingly different. But you're also right. The vendors in the neighborhood, as it was called, I can recall prior Synergy conferences where there were 12 vendors total. And there must have been 50.
And again, that's a huge strategic shift, because it used to be that Thomson sold Thomson at the Thomson conference and a few other selected people that were like first and second cousins. But if you weren't truly part of the family, you didn't play at Synergy. And this is a whole different world. So there has been a big culture shift here. Now, I will say that I thought it was a good conference. I had a good time. There were a lot of people there. I got to see some people from Tax Twitter, shout out to the folks I got to see from there. I will also say that, they really, again, there's a lot of Right Networks people there. There were just a lot of folks there. I got to see Bill Murphy from Insightful Accountant. And it just was a very good event. It's I'm glad to see that we have significant investments being made in the profession, and leading tools like the SurePrep tools, like the Materia tools, are being and SafeSend tools as well, are being integrated directly into the stack of applications, into new solutions that take these 2 plus 2 and make 5 and 6 and 7 out of it by putting them together and doing things with them.
So maybe a couple of closing thoughts for you on this. If you use any Thomson products, you should send people to Synergy. I know it's a dollar and time commitment, but I really believe that it is worth it. That would be my first general statement.
And let me supplement that by saying that the thing that is so different about this conference versus every other conference that I've been to over the last 20 years, 30 years, I guess, is that they have these roundtables. Okay, now the roundtables don't seem like that big of a deal when you look at it. So, we're going to sit around after drinks and talk shop. Okay. But the thing is that especially with small firms or with firms that are in specialized practice areas like lit support or other things like that, to be able to find community where when you have a problem and you can call somebody, like you would have if you worked, for one of the big four and you went to the water cooler and then you said, am I losing my mind or is this what I'm seeing here? Where you just want to bounce something off of somebody. This gives you a way to create those networks, which really can be a huge differentiator for firms when, because again, no firm can be all things to all people, even the biggest firms. But building those networks are the way that you can really get deeper into niches and deeper into these specialized practice areas. And by building that community, and that's the cool thing, is the attendees want to share with each other. And it's I'm not going to suggest that you're going to pick up a zillion new leads there because I don't think you are, but you may pick up connections that can help you rethink your business model or help you do things differently and learn new ways to solve the problems.
Well, and then the second part of going to Synergy is you get to be around a lot of the product managers.
Yeah.
So you actually get to meet and greet. And then when you need a little help, actually who to talk to.
And you have their business card and their direct number. And again, every organization that has tech support has failures. Okay. Now, Thomson's got good tech support. CCH has good tech support. Intuit has good tech support. But sometimes you can't get what you want and you're just beating your head against the wall and you know how to solve the problem. And so between talking to the people inside Thomson and talking to your peers, this conference sets you up for a greater level of success if you're using those products.
Yeah. So one final parting thought from my side is next year's conference is going to be held in Las Vegas at the Fontainebleau, and I believe the dates are November 16 to 19 next year. So again, if you're trying to plan your future calendar, you might look at that. Any other items, Brian?
Viva Las Vegas.
Oh man, I was afraid I was going to where's the mute button?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm quite excited about it. I think they've moved a lot of stuff forward. Again, I think the thing to understand here is there's learning that you can do about the products, but there's also learning you can do about how to solve problems with the products and how to meet people to help you do better with things you do or do differently. And I think that's the thing that really sets this conference apart.
Yeah. So separately, remember, we did interview the executive team in Orlando. So there's other accounting technology lab episodes on that as well. So until next time, Brian and I are signing off from, what do you say?
Fabulous Brentwood.
All right. All the best to all of you. Good day.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We'll be back next Saturday with a new episode of the Technology Lab from CPA Practice Advisor. Have a great week.